In 2015, I was attending a city tour with a group of friends and some tourists. The city we were visiting was called Erfurt, and that was, so think of it right in the middle of Germany. Now, even though geographically it belongs there, it was historically part of GDR, or the German Democratic Republic, the eastern side. Now, East Germany basically got dealt the worst cards at the end of the war. And even though, great efforts were made to reunify Germany, especially after the Berlin Wall fell down, but there is still a little bit of a characteristic difference between the people of West Germany and of East Germany. It's just my experience as an outsider. Bear in mind, some of the kindest, nicest, most open people that I've ever met in my life, and also some of the most intelligent, have been from that part of the country. And now that I'm giving you disclaimers, I might as well give you a big one. I think stereotypes should not be completely ignored. Somewhere on the information spectrum, stereotypes give you between 0 and 100% of the information, but not 0%. And also not 100%, but definitely not 0%. Now, with East Germany, there are some more considerations than you would normally have. And it's just a teeny tiny speck of the population that is affected, let's say. But there is a little bit of a remnant of that whole Nazi ideology. I mean, statistically speaking, some percent of the population is a little bit fucked up everywhere in the world. It just so happens that in Germany, and specifically that part of Germany, those people are Nazis. So as I was walking in that city, there was a point when we reached the cathedral, and that's like the middle of the city. So at that point, it was just me and one of my best friends, and all the other people had just scattered around a little bit because the tour guide was basically talking about the cathedral, and me and my friend, I think we were both just kind of absorbing the place. We were in that city probably for the first time and just taking it in. It was a bright sunny day, beautiful light, and that's super rare in Germany. Most of the times it's rather gloomy, but at that time it was really a beautiful day. Some of the people who were in that tour were just grabbing ice cream. Some of the people were taking pictures. All in all, a very fun day. It's just a group of like people from Korea, people from the Middle East, people from India, from Pakistan, from all the different parts of the world. And we were just having a good time together, man. Some moments go by, and this relatively shorter dude, I would say about 145-ish centimeters, just walks up to me and my friend, says a whole dialogue in German, raises his hand, and does the thing that you're not supposed to do in Germany. Says Heil Hitler Heil. And just fucking walks away. Now, at this point, I think I was in Germany for maybe 10 days, 15 days, something like this. And I don't think I'm the type of person to be easily offended. And I just thought, nah, some asshole. I just turned to my friend and I was like, dude, that guy's such a cunt. And he's like, yeah, what? Yeah, fuck that guy. And we just carried on walking. Now, we had so much fun shit planned, thanks to the tour guide, that we basically just kept walking around and forgot about that whole thing. Well, not really forgot about it, but just kind of let it go. It just was some asshole. Who gives a fuck, right? So we just continued to have a great day, took tons of pictures, got back to where we were living at that time. And so a couple of days later, we got invited to a party. And so it was me and the same friend that I was hanging out in the other city with. And we were just sitting down, having some beers, smoking cigarettes with some of the native people in that place and just having a conversation. And the people that we were with that time was super nice. It was just one of these people just casually asked, like, "Hey, I hope you guys are settling in nicely. I hope everything's fine. People are treating you well. I hope everything's going great for you so far." And we both said, "Yeah, this is pretty good. We really like the people that live here, and it's pretty fun. It's more fun than we anticipated. We were just hanging out." And then that person at some point in the conversation persisted, and he says, "I hope you guys haven't had any like negative experiences or something like this. Hope you guys haven't had any problems in communication, or anybody saying anything rude to you or something like this." And I think the general context of the conversation was somebody brought up, "Oh, I expected people in Germany to be super rude, but they're so nice." Whatever the fuck. That's where the conversation started at that time. And so based on this particular question, when he pressed on this question, my friend just answered, "No, we've pretty much only met like really nice people." And at this point, I turned to my friend and, okay, a little bit about him first. He is one of the spaciest dudes that I've ever met in my entire life. It's like 98% of his conscience just exists in another universe and only shares like 2% of his reality with everybody else's reality around him, right? And I turned to him and I'm like, "Yes, but what about that dude that we met the other day in Erfurt, dude? That Nazi guy." And he's like, "What Nazi guy?" I like, "You remember that guy who said something in German and then raised his hand and then he said the Heil Hitler Heil thing?" And my friend is like, "What the fuck? When did that happen?" And I'm like, "Dude, he literally basically walked up to the both of us, did that whole thing. I turned to you, I said, 'What an asshole.' You said, 'Yeah, that guy is fuck that guy,' or whatever. And you walked about it. I thought we were just both being cool about that moment and saying, 'Fuck that guy. That guy doesn't even deserve being talked about.'" And he's like, "Yeah, I had no idea that happened." Meanwhile, the German guy is like so embarrassed, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you." And I'm like, "Nah, it wasn't that bad. I really didn't give a shit." I think my friend's attitude at that particular moment was the exact correct attitude that you're supposed to have in circumstances like this. I mean, had he been paying more attention, maybe he would have been more pissed off. And God only knows the two of us have encountered enough adverse situations in Germany together, some of them involving Nazis. Most situations we just basically de-escalated and got the fuck out of the way, where engagement would have almost certainly endangered our lives. That particular one, where he didn't even notice that entire scenario occurring, I think that is one of the reasons why he's such a good dude. Because why the fuck pay enough attention to an asshole who doesn't deserve the time of day? Just fucking only absorb only absorb shit that interests you in the spectrum of your life. And then that's a characteristic hippie way of living life, right? Now, a few months or maybe a year later or something like this, we got informed that a few students from our country and from some neighboring countries were traveling around in a nearby city, and that is one hell of a beautiful city. If I were to ever live in East Germany, I think that might be the city that I would consider living in. So the place is called Jena. It's also in Thüringen, and it's where the famous old Carl Zeiss factories were. I still actually have some lenses from that part of the world, still in fucking amazing shape. And in that university town, some students got beaten the fuck out of for being from Pakistan. And apparently they let one guy go because he was Indian. So they were basically asking people their nationality. And if it was like a Muslim country, beating the shit out of them. And then if it was like a Hindu country or something, just letting them go. Just giving them a hug and letting them go. And that was one of the most bizarre things that I've ever heard. Now, incidents like these aren't common, but tragically, they also aren't non existent yet. They happen often enough that it is a serious problem. Of course, it's proportional to the population and all that shit. And relatively speaking, I still think it's not worthy of attention, or it's not worthy of being offended. But of course, if your life is in danger, if somebody's going to beat the shit out of you for being from a particular country, I think that's just fucking insane. And in that moment, I realized my friend just had the best strategy. Because the best way to engage with a Nazi is just not to engage. Why the fuck give a person like that the time of day?